of a cold nature, So when you have, people like that in the corridors, they should have been. I want to especially recognize and honor you, Ma, if you can hear me. And may God keep you alive for you to be able to give more to the sector. I want to start by an overview of understanding what is this mining sector that everybody talks about. And you can typically break the mining sector into three major segments and two broad groupings. And at the three major segments, you have the mining, minerals, metal, and steel. And then at the broad groupings, you have the exploration and exploitation, respectively. In general terms, the mineral segment represents the raw material base of the industry. The metals segment has to do with the beneficiation or smelting of the minerals, while the steel segment represents the aggregation of both the minerals and metals in the production of materials used in the development of infrastructure. So when people talk about mining, a lot of people mining is like the elephant and the three blind men. And this story of elephant that we're to how this embrace and then building these synergies can be able to solve. Now, the present underdeveloped state of the mining sector was occasioned by a lot of factors, both systemic and specific. And I'm going to be going down to my next slide. But what these systemic and sector-specific challenges has now done is that from 12% GDP real term in 65 to 75, 5.62% in 1980, we are now oscillating between 0.56, if in real terms, maybe something a little much more lower. And I can assure everybody listening to me today, and I stand to be corrected, that the activities that we have more mining sectors that have a of $250 million. Now, what are these systemic and then let's talk about this very specific. I wish maybe they'll share my and communicate in places that, and this is why most of the death rates that you see are being created, or the spokes that are being created, are actually created as part of mining infrastructure and electricity. And I know that a lot of people in this room know that still working years specifically to the mines in Jos. That IPP has not blinked in the past 44 years, and everybody who's linked to that Kura 4 IPP that was owned by the team mines still gets 24 hours electricity today. Because the main in the mind here on my own. This guy the next slide, what typically happens in a mining chain. Now, what has happened is that a lot of the activities that we're doing now at the equity level is actually what we are putting a lot of money into. And because of this low understanding of what we should be doing at what level, this sector has become so disjointed, okay, that the greatest challenge to its development is for these things to follow. Adherence to these steps I've listed. What happens at grassroots? What happens at that equity to begin to go to where you now have your debt funding. And it is at this point of debt funding that you start talking about institute values. And it is at this point of institute values that you now begin to talk about what they call equipment buyback, talk about what they call infrastructure development or allied infrastructure development, and then talk about what you now call your return on investment. But it has been a very, very great challenge. But we're going to try to decouple it as we go ahead. Now, what are the of the cross-cutting, challenges? Next slide, please. That has come out of this very low understanding of this sector-specific challenges. You will now have multi-environmental issues occasioned by the high degree of informality, in the mining sector. You see, everybody has seemed to promote artisanal mining as a major government policy. But artisanal mining is supposed to be very interventionist if you understand its applications very well. It is supposed to be something that you just begin to do so that you stop people from sterilizing the mines. You can be able to now and then train those energies and capacities to be able to now help, the junior mining companies when they come, and then they can be integrated. Now, the second challenge is the lack of appropriate finance. And then we've gone to liquidate, scrap, sell major exploration and mining and beneficial facilities with government interests. And then, of course, there's low-level funding for scientific data gathering, storage and retrieval to meet the needs of the private sector-led mining industry. And then, this is also very important. I don't know if anybody from the Solid Minerals Development Fund is here. They stand to be corrected. There is also very low funding and equipping of the SMDF to perform their statutory functions. Now we can stay on this slide and I can finish my presentation because everything that seems to be wrong with the mining sector, you can actually capture here. And the misrepresentation of what also happens, between what you call your bankable studies and then what you call your geosciences and geoscientific data collection, again becomes another very major turning point, where you now have people say we have enough data to be able to attract investments. It does not truly run that way. So I've tried to show a diagram where that actually now explains this relationship. Okay, now the next slide. Okay, yes. Now, if you can see this, you can actually now, look at clearly, how everybody runs whatever it is that they run. How you take, a mine to gather that basic information, who does it? That is where you have your geological survey, and then where you now take it to the junior mining companies, where they now are able to now generate the data that you need to take to the mining majors or the people they call the majors. And then before you now get to where you can now start, developing what you call a mining production. Now, what is missing in this whole circle in Nigeria is that we've not been able to understand, what junior mining companies means, how they operate, who promotes them, who supports them, and then how they can be supported to be able to now create this embrace that we're talking about. A junior mining company is usually either promoted by government or promoted by the major mining companies. Now, their simple role is to be able to work with these artisanal mines or miners who are pathfinders. The artisanal miners are the pathfinders to the junior mining companies, and the junior mining companies are agents of the mining majors. So anytime you now get to that point where a junior mining company has found a major find, then they take it to the majors who now make it into a huge global mining concern. And this has been a very, very turning point in developing the mining industry in Nigeria. Go to the next slide. And I also want to simplify it now for everybody to see. So what you need to do, yes, that one, thank you. So you see this simple slide you see here is actually that arrow that now makes you to understand, clearly what the mining dynamics are. From the level of exploration to the level of mine, to the level of processing and beneficiation, to the level of smelting, and then what you now have, what you call your ultimate value added finished. Now, in mining, there is what they call net smelter values. And it is what I'm sure a lot at this point is where you can now begin to convert your ores into solids, where you're able to now begin to now convert your ores into bars. This is where you now begin to now talk about the LMB standards if you're talking about gold. This is where you now start talking about your ingots if you're talking about lead. Okay? Now, because we don't have this, what we'll now do is that this presentation is all about. Now, who are those that should come together to be able to build these synergies that you need, okay, to now develop, this embrace that can be able to create success? The first and the most important person is the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. But they have a very distinct role in this matter. And what is their distinct role? Is the role of regulator and administrator. By the laws establishing the Ministry of Mines and Technology, they don't have any other role. They don't have any business by that law touching anything in any mining site. And this is where another aberration, but I don't think this is a platform for us to be able to drill it down, because it will take us a lot of time. Now, you have the Mining Cadastre Office, you have the National Geological Survey Agency, you have the Nigerian Steel Raw Materials Exploration Agency, you have the Nigerian Geological Research Laboratory, you have the Nigerian Mining Corporation, which is now been laid to rest, you have the Bureau of Public Enterprises, and then you have the NIOMCOs and the SEL and the DSL and the Inland Relay Mills of all. I am sure you're wondering, what would the Bureau of Public Enterprises be doing in creating something that has to do with the mining sector? Now, what a lot of us also do not know is that 10, 15 years ago, the Ministry of Mines, in their wisdom, had actually given an exclusive power of attorney to the BPE to be able to do what he wanted, how best he thought it could work. Anything that could be able to take the mining sector of Nigeria to the public sector. And I tell you what the BPE did. They now had the exclusive right to be able to repackage all the mining facilities that are available. They threw it into two very broad sectors, what we call the core and the non-core. In a matter of months, everything in the non-core assets were sold. And these were the beneficiaries on lands, these were the lands, these were the machinery. But the core assets, none could be sold, and very few were sold, if any, because we didn't have enough data in that data room that they set up for it to happen. And this happened because there was no synergy. And again, a lot of people, when you hear the Nigerian Steel Raw Materials Exploration Agency, a lot of people do not know that there are 7 minerals that are associated with the production of steel, and that there is no agency in Nigeria that has the capacity that the Nigerian Steel Raw Material Exploration Agency, and of course the data on the drills that have conducted on some of these minerals. So if we get these people to come together, they can actually form a consultancy that can become that junior mining company. Whereas the National Geological Survey cannot be able to now probe, further. Okay, they are now supported by the Nigerian, Geological Research Laboratory, which a lot of people do not know is existing. And you'll be shocked at the equipment in that laboratory. You'll be damn shocked. Okay, and then with a partnership, of course, with the Bureau of Public Enterprises and the Mining Cadastre Office that is actually in charge, warehouses all the information on the cadastral system in Nigeria. What you would have gotten yourself would have been a junior mining company that is now ready to cooperate with the private sector. Next slide, please. And then what will now happen if we're able to get this? If you can give me the next slide, you will see that this is only slide that are the key. And this is the key that can be able to unlock it. There are 4 basic things that would happen. Okay, you would have, developed project-based infrastructure models. You'd have developed midstream facilities. You'd have developed bankable facilities. And all this would have been driven. It would have started by what you call the PPF. And it is under the PPF you have what you call patient capital. Now, for those in mining who understand patient capital, it is the most important aspect of our business because it allows you to be able to carry out detailed exploration program, reconfirmation drilling, and then detailed review of your in-situ values. And the moment you get that, it takes you to the next level, okay? Which is now to be able to now tie this thing to infrastructure development based on your in-situ values, okay? And then you take it to your beneficiation program where you now have your metals, steel, production, and then this industrial utilization of these raw materials. This is where you now have this midstream that unfortunately we have gone to concession, without thinking about the back end. And then, of course, what do you have? Integrated mine development, for raw materials, for the production of materials. You can turn this any which way you want to go, but these are the 4 basics that you need. You must start with your PPF, and the PPF leads you to your bankable feasibility, and this is where you get your equity. If you remember the map where I showed you debt and equity, okay? Now, and then after that equity, you now get to your midstream facilities development, which is where you get your debt funding. Okay, this is where you now start going to the banks to be able to say, I have done my PPF, I have my bankable feasibility study, and then I am ready, I am ready to I am ready to take you to the next level. And then after that, you are now able to now develop your infrastructure. And a lot of people, again, gentlemen, ladies, do not know what they call load value in infrastructure development. And that a lot of our infrastructure developed hitherto were developed against the load value from the mining sector. And the lack of these new synergies between your load value and the development of infrastructure has also created a very huge loss. If we're able to understand that circle, I can assure you that we'll be taking it to the next level. Take me to the next slide, please. I'll be rounding up very soon, so I won't take a lot of your time. Now, all these listed agencies will now form the bulwark for de-risking the mining sector. And how are they going to be doing this? They're going to be creating a solid minerals development authority that will now be modeled after the Sovereign Wealth Investment Agency. Okay? And the role of this agency will be to manage data generated through the junior mining companies and through the Solid Minerals Development Fund as a means of actualizing the objectives of the Mining Act of 2007. I'm saying this publicly for you to know that we don't need any other agency that is not tied to these things. If you don't tie it, you're also going to be delinking. And then this authority, which is now linked to like the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, will now function as an intermediary financier. And then create the necessary guarantees and enhancements, to attract funding to the entire mining value chain. And then with the private sector, and of course, with the Solid Minerals Investment Fund, can now, float a Solid Minerals Investment Fund that can be listed on Nigerian Stock Exchange and other exchanges to attract investors into the sector who may wish to, invest directly. I don't know if this is sounding too technical, but this is just how simple and how straight solving this problem will be. Go to the next slide, please. And then what will be the outputs? We're going to be re-engineering the process of acquisition of titles to land for mining licenses and include the states and host communities in mineral resources development, which remains a major challenge to date. And you see, people also do not know that without the CDA, if you have a mining license and you don't have, a CDA, you can't enter into that mine. People don't know that. And what is a CDA? It is a community development agreement. You cannot erect your beacons. But these days they say, okay, but people also misinterpret what they mean by the community. The community is not that village that you are going to erect your mines. The community is actually the state, if you understand that law well, because the remediation funds and remediation committees are not established by the local people, they are established by the states. But again, a story of another day. Then this will help you with the development of appropriate funding and support for the geological survey to enable it to provide more accurate geological information about our mineral resources. And then encourage the development of resources based on economic corridors along the Benue Trough on a sustainable basis. I put in this Benue Trough because a lot of people have had Benue Trough. Take me to the next slide. Now, for anybody who understands the mining sector, the first thing you will learn, or they'll tell you, is about the 600 kilometers Benue Trough. What people do not know is that that trough runs all across Nigeria, and that's actually where you have the mineral belt in Nigeria. Okay? And it extends 1,000 kilometers from the Bight of Benin to Lake Chad. And almost every mineral that you want to talk about is actually captured in that, but I don't have a lot of time to start explaining it now. Maybe some other time I can be able to drill it down. So I just put in the photograph there. Now take me to the last slide so I can close and, no, the next one. The next one, please. Go ahead, the next one. Go ahead. Yes, that one you have your arrow now. Thank you very much. Now, what is this development structures we're talking about? There are 4 basic stages. Stage number 1 is prospecting. Now, what happens there? It is there that you have reconnaissance to obtain your mineral occurrence. It is there you have your mineral exploration license. It is there you identify mineral ore bodies on acreage. It is there you do your pitting and trenching to identify mineral veins. It is there you're allowed, I don't know if you have changed it now, an initial, maximum drilling of, I think, 30 meters, drilling campaign. It is there that you should do your essay of ore recovery from the veins. But this is where we are stuck. This is where we've been stuck as a country, unfortunately, for the past 60 years. And then you go to the next stage, which is exploration. Now, a lot of people have kept misrepresenting prospecting with exploration, unfortunately, because it is under exploration that you now conduct your core drills on acreage to ascertain your proven reserves and tonnages of minerals on the acreage. It is there you do the evaluation of the tonnage of the proven reserves. It is there you do further assay and testing of ore recovered from further depths. It is there you do development of a mineral ore extraction plan. It is there you do your impact assessment program. And then you go to the third stage, which is development and extraction and processing. This is where you have actually your financial closure. And then, of course, the reclamation closure, to be able to now complete mine reclamation at the end of the mine cycle. I've also put in some funding structures and who should be able to fund it based on my initial, position to say to you, there are 3 or 4 kinds of funding. The first funding is the patient capital. The second funding is the equity capital. The third funding is the debt funding. And the fourth funding actually comes from the mine. It now comes from, those things you pay, those percentages of that you now pay for your mine, reclamation. And this is where, when they say where mining stops, is where agriculture starts. And this is why today, in a hilly place like Jos, they are growing tomatoes and potatoes all the year round. But I had wanted I didn't know how to do details, but knows what I've said much more better than I've said it. If I've impacted in any way, I'm happy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emeka, for that wonderful presentation. It's actually an eye-opener, and then it's unfortunate that Nigeria is still in a prospecting stage till now, and we keep confusing things between prospecting and exploration. I think we have the role of the agencies cannot be overemphasized. They have a major role to play in the development of the Nigerian solid mineral sector. But in an event where these agencies don't, the political will is not there for them to develop the sector, I think that's the reason why you could say we've been in just in one stage for the past 20 years or thereabouts. Even though we know that there are no bankable data that will attract investment or can develop the sector, we think there's still more. Nigeria is a country that is fully and well endowed. With even the Benue Trough, it can also give you an idea of where Nigeria's solid minerals are. I keep wondering why we don't have in one stage for the past 60 years. Maybe some other person can tell us the reason, because this is a learning platform. Everybody here is here to learn. Even Doctor said he wants to learn. So I don't know if you have any question. We have just like 10 minutes before we call on the next speaker, or you have any addition you want to add, you're free to just identify, then I'll put you on the spot. Okay, Professor Ako wants to say something. Prof.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, wherever you are.
Okay, Prof.
I quite appreciate this lecture.
Yeah.
I will be brief. You see, some of the things we are talking about is the confusion of Nigeria. There was mining corporation to take care of some of the things he's talked about. We sold off mining corporation, we disbanded it. There was NIOMCO specifically for the iron industry. We finished it. So we want to come back to the same circle once more. Benue Trough is just part, let me be frank, Benue Trough is just part of the mineralized portion of Nigeria. There are several other portions of Nigeria rich in minerals. In addition, let's not confuse exploration and prospecting. In the solid mineral industry, well, exploration, prospecting, we regard as same. In the oil industry, for instance, which is mining, we mine oil. We explore. And then when we have a prospect, it's after exploration, we have a prospect that when, for me, in the mineral industry, exploration comes, reconnaissance, detailed exploration, and then we go into coring and all the rest before we go into exploitation. So these are some of the things I want us to be familiar with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. So, Prof, I've made it clear. Doctor, do you agree with that, Dr. Emeka? Exploration comes first before prospecting.
He added, he talked about exploitation and exploration. Okay, exploitation is where you have your, for the mining sector, it is now where you have your mining in production. Okay, but he's right to say you must be able to have, and when you use the word a prospect, okay, there are two ways in the mining sector you have a prospect. You can define a prospect after you've done your exploration. It's part of your, there are two feasibilities that you do in the mining. Okay, there's a difference between your coring and a bankable feasibility. You can finish your coring and that prospect is still not feasible, because if it does not support the infrastructure that you need, part of what it is you do, and this is where you can also scale down on the kind of mining equipment or processing equipment that you now put inside a mine. Okay, if it's going to be the metals, this is where your metallurgy is. In fact, most mines equipment are designed after you get to that point where you've gotten your bankables to this source. So thank you, Professor Bankole. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. Let's have Engineer Janet Adeyemi for her own comment. Okay, she's not on seat. Let's have Mrs. Salau. Mrs. Salau, over to you. Mrs. Salau, are you there?
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, I'm with you.
Not you, sir. Hello.
Okay, engineer, are you there? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. I hope my network is good because it's been funny. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah. I want to thank Dr. Emeka, my pally. you understand, for the wonderful presentation. You didn't let me down. However, I just want to reiterate or back up what you said. You see, for mining to develop in this country, mining must be seen as a technical ministry, purely technical. A situation where you have disconnected, disjointed, how do I put it, professional background with little or no experience driving the sector will always be a challenge as far as I'm concerned. And so even those people that come in, give them credit, give them kudos that they pick it up. But before they are settling down to even do anything, they've removed them, they've changed them. So development is not deepened. One comes with a policy, is doing excellently well. See what is happening right now, excellently well, but before you know it, another 2 years or so it's changed. At least, even if you change the political heads like permanent ministers and co, let the permanent secretary be a technical person. Let the directors be real technical persons grounded. And then the department is long overdue with what you call is it corporate affairs or investment unit. The investment unit should be purely investment, where you have investment advisors, you understand, and occupying that that field. Even though they are regulators, you must know what you want to regulate. That is one. Then number two, I disagree. Then number two, there's another thing that is causing the hiccups. He mentioned that you could have an agreement, that's the CDA. You have the CDA that you can assess the field. It's not like that. Corruption, you understand, makes people assess and batter. We are just back from Osun State, and you saw what we saw in Ibala. You will weep for this country. Degraded, destroyed, and everything like that. And people walk away. You understand, leave pains, degraded environments you understand, on their trails. So the need to engage, because I will disagree slightly with Emeka, who is trying to reconstruct our constitution. Host community, as far as I understand everywhere, means mining communities. But the mining communities cannot be isolated, you understand, from their state. Right. But it is mining communities. Because before you know it, you will find out that if a governor is from a community, even where there's no mineral, because the resources are coming into his hands, you find out that even the host community will suffer. However, you need to build up the capacity of the whole host community to be able to engage, to be able to negotiate, to be able to know what is good for them. But most times in Ibala, and I'm happy you saw it, Mr. Mojo, in Ibala, in this era where you are thumbprinting the hand of a woman, you understand, and say she's part of your CDA team, thumbprinting, holding her hand. So she doesn't even know what she's signing to. You give her a few change and that is all. So I believe that these are the things that are setting us backwards, because you only have to put us and look at other countries and see how they're advancing. So for us to advance, every aspect of mining, I keep on saying, is important, from reconnaissance surveying, you understand, to processing, to closure, you understand. Every aspect of it is important. And the moment you miss out, because you are tampering with the environment, is that not why we are talking about sustainability crisis? You go into an environment, you ignore the people. You ignore the local people because you have settled somebody in Abuja or somebody. And another thing again is that the mining community is where it is, because if you look at even what you listed, you missed out a vital aspect, which I call the vanguards, that is the civil society, the NGOs working in that space. The ICMM that we are celebrating, is it not an NGO? IGF, is it not an NGO? Why do we have NGOs thriving, recognized in the West? But our NGOs here, you understand, are not even recognized. You understand? We think, oh, these people are just out to beg, whereas they have a space to occupy. They have a responsibility to carry out. So until we learn to see that everybody is important in this cycle, moving forward will be extremely difficult. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Janet. So, Emeka, mining host community is not the community, it's not the state. according to engineer. I don't know what you have anything
Well,
to
you
say.
see, we can have this argument over and over again. We are looking at the statutes and the laws.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, you need to look at the people who sit in your environmental reclamation, what the law allows for people to do. It is at the state level. Okay? And then whatever compensations that are paid are also paid at the state level. However, what the CDAA does is that it makes a commitment, to those, first and foremost, from reclamation to resettling the people who now live on that land. Okay, so it is not exclusively, those who live on the land. And if you get that understanding a little better, when you go to places where you have quarries and they are paying taxes, they don't pay taxes to the locals, they pay it to the states by law. Okay, but it is for us to be able to now find that synergy. When I and Honorable Janet went to Jos, she was much more, she was extremely pretty then, and much more very fashionable. And then the day we drove in her car. And then when we got into that mine, I tell that story, I've told this story over 20 years. I think she was wearing a white dress. She saw this child lying in the mud, and the mother was dirty, and she grabbed that child and burst into tears. Okay? That was the day women in mining were born. And she's kept that passion over a very long period of time. I've not seen anybody who's putting as much energy as Honorable Janet has put into making certain that these things are understood. However, yes, you can access the mine, but I also like the word that you use, the word illegally. Now, when you develop or create these civil societies that are supposed to be stopping these people, in our days, in the days of my grandfather, they used to have what they call the mine police. It is not the civil society, they don't have a right. We must be able to create, and one thing she said is clear. Until we begin to treat the mineral sector as a purely technical sector, and because it is a regulator, you don't appoint politicians, to run technical, areas that has regulation. It's not done. Not at the level of the PAMSEC, not the level of the minister. This is very, very critical and key. In fact, I'll tell a story here. One of the ministers, I had gone to, when I was still doing a project for the World Bank, we had gone to see him. And then when he was talking, some of the directors in the hall were saying, okay, you should have told us that you have a PhD in mining. Everything he said, they were clapping. Everything he said, they were clapping. And when he got to my turn, I said, in 6 months, you have become an expert in the mining sector. We're in trouble here. And the people who are supposed to be talking to you about the things you're saying that are not right, there are a lot of very good sound bites. In the next 2 years, we'll make Nigeria a mining destination. It doesn't run that way. Okay?
Yeah.
And then people are saying to you, it is possible. In the next years, we are going to do this. Mining, like I said to you, has a process. Mining is chemistry. You miss one, you miss all. So point I'm trying to make is that, yes, I agree with Engineer Adeyemi that the host community are important in making certain that they reap directly from what it is. And that's always how it's been. I was technically said in a mine site. And in the days that my grandfather, they were running mines in the 50s, there was no village you go to in the plateau that you wouldn't see corrugated roofs that had electricity. Not one. So the first thing that mattered was that you needed to deal with those people at that local level. Okay. Now, in now tying the process of what it is you're getting out, from what it is you've done with your institute evaluation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Emeka. Mr. Patrick, very quickly, so that we can start the second speaker. Just 1 minute for your comment, Mr. Patrick.
Hello.
Can speak
Hello.
out. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry, a call came through. Right. Oracle, wonderful. Madam, I thank you again. You're bringing up a very, very important subject, important discourse. And I think this is really what is going to develop the solid mineral sector that we want to see. I wanted to comment on the host community, but I think it has been judiciously handled. And But there's another point that I really want to raise. You see, look, following through what the Dr. Okongwu has presented to us, they all signal that global perception of solid mineral development. And we know that in our own climate, there are so many what is considered not even small miners, right? We're not even small miners. We're not even small miners. So we're below small miners. But those small miners are actually, why don't we link up our industry, our own industry, come up with something uniquely us and develop our own system that as small as we are, we can be linked up to the industry. I'll give you an example. Barite, apart from its use in oil and gas, barite is used in brake pad production. We're having an automobile industry that are now doing a lot of KDC, knockdown installation. We can link them up. All those parts, spare parts system can actually come from our minds. So I just think that we have to find a creative way to link up our own minds, no matter how small they are, link them up to a creative off-taker. And then with this type of platform, with more education, I think we can actually shortcut the system and get something that is locally made, uniquely Nigerian, that can actually serve the same function as what we are looking at. Because to me, I've never been a fan of these global mining giants. Because when you look at, I mean, they started somewhere. We can actually proceed to be one of those global giants. But we need a linkage. And that linkage will actually enable us to go through the finance that the banks are not interested as of now. But if we have an off-taker system that can off-take some of these products from us, we can get somewhere very quickly. That's what I want to chip in.
Okay, thank you everyone for your contribution. Well, without much ado, we will need to go straight into the second presenter. The second presenter is Mr. Omomotimi Agama. He'll be taking us on understanding commodity trading. And just quickly run through who Mr. Omomotimi John Agama is. He's a chartered management consultant, accountant, economist, investment analyst, and a risk manager. He's currently the managing director, Nigerian Capital Market Institute, but recently head the Registration, Exchanges and Market Infrastructure and Innovation Department. In this capacity, he oversees the following division: registration, exchanges, formerly Special Assistant to the Executive Commissioner, Operations, and head public offerings at the Securities and Exchange Commission. Mr. Timi is a secondee to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commissions. He is a ranking member of the Rule Committee and the co-sponsor of the Green Bond Regulation Framework at the SEC. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Timi. You know, Nigeria, with all the resources we have, we still find ourselves in a fixed, in the sense that our resources goes out and being refined in other states, in other countries, and it comes back to us again as finished product. But what is Nigeria gaining from all the exchanges? Where are those revenue leakages? Why are we experiencing revenue leakages in the system generally? Mr. Timi will do justice to that, and let's just sit back and relax and enjoy the presentation. Mr. Timi, over to you, sir.
Thank you for having me, and special thanks to Engineer Adeyemi for finding me worthy to address such an august forum. Once again, I'm indeed very grateful, and I do not take this privilege for granted. I guess it's my slide in, or can I share? Because I think I was restricted from sharing earlier on. So can I have authority?
Okay, let me just permit you to do that very quickly. Okay, cheers.
Okay. Right. So thank you once again. It was very interesting listening to the technical stuff from Dr. Emeka and of course, the banters from other experts regarding the deep technical contents of mining. And in my mind, what I see ions, I see very heavy metals, I see, caterpillars and all of that. And I was wondering, should I actually be here? But all the same, I thought there should be a reason why I'm here. All this technical exploration, prospecting, and all these big without to what? To funding of toiling is to absorb actually money out of all of this. And how does this happen? It's only by moving one commodity, one person to the other. So in all convert I have. How do I convert the gold? How do I convert the tin? How do I convert the barite? How do I convert silver, copper, name it? How do I convert all of this into cash? How does it sit in my bank account? So I will be speaking to these whole concepts. The time probably will not permit, but I'll do justice. I'll try and do justice to it, and I'll be speaking to it live. So first and foremost, understanding commodities markets, speaking specifically to the solid mineral sector. What has been very popular amongst so many people has been agriculture. But I took something from Dr. Okego who said, where mining stops, that is where agriculture starts. So if that is the case, why has agriculture not started? Possibly because mining has not started. Not until mining starts and stops, then agriculture will start. So I believe strongly that we will get it right. Maybe we'll have to, wind the clock back in order to be able to appreciate exactly what we are talking about. The major challenge we've always had is education. Education. We do not know anything. I can imagine this 45 minutes, 1 hour as, seated here, listening to Dr. Okego and professor and engineer, how much I have learned when I would have assumed that I knew so much, but only to find out that I was partially a non-entity in this area. But thank God and thank Dr. Janet Adeyemi, Honorable Janet Adeyemi, for allowing me to be part of this. So what do? I work for the Securities and Exchange Commission. And what is our business? Our business is the regulation of the capital market. What does the capital market do? The capital market's business is how to, one, protect the investor, first and foremost, two, educate and organize the investors, then more importantly, how to raise capital. How to raise capital and how to sell capital. Sell capital in the sense of commodities. That is what we do. So that institution is enabled and empowered by the ISA 2007. Of course, Section 13 empowers us, empowers the Commission to do all of what I've just talked about, particularly for the trading of commodities. It is regulated exchanges, futures, options, derivatives, commodity exchange, and any other recognized investment exchange. Why have we fallen back? Why have we been behind in all of these things? We have been behind because there has not been transparency and the other factors that will encourage trading of commodities. If you do not have an exit, why would you have an entry? Imagine somebody that's been eating and eating and eating all his or her life, and at the end of the day, there is nowhere to pass physics. How do you imagine how that person will look like? Principally, that is the issue. You can mine as much as you want to mine. You can use all of the caterpillars you want to use. But if there is no avenue for the exchange of such commodities, all efforts would just be nuts. And the essence of buying and selling, the essence of exchanges is to provide such a platform. Such a platform so that whoever is involved in all of this will know that there is a future. Why would you start a journey when you do not know the ending of where you are going to? The only reason why you start a journey and don't know the ending is because you are totally blind. But if you have sight, if you have a vision, if you have hope, then certainly you are able to say, this is where I'm going to. Mining should not only start, it should also have a vision as to where you are going to exchange. What kind of pricing these commodities that you are talking about will have. So the major crux of the matter is that these informations are not available. The SEC has several rules, which I won't bore you with, concerning the regulation of commodities and futures exchanges, and in part E of the SEC rules and regulation. Feel free to reach out to me to get some of this information, which tells you exactly what you need to do to set up an exchange. And what is an exchange? An exchange is practically a marketplace where you do buying and selling. But you do buying and selling in what form? In an organized form. All of the mining we are talking about, all of the artisanal farm miners you are talking about, all of the ingredients you are talking about. Because first and foremost, I heard Dr. Okeke speak about the stages of funding. Yes, you have funding in the first stage, that is from family and friends. Yes, after that, what next? Then the next thing is that your money cannot take you there. What would you need to do? You need to go to the capital market. That is where you have what he calls patient capital. Patient capital is speaking to what he calls private equity, is speaking to raising of funds, public offerings, and the rest of it. And indeed, what the SEC has just done recently is to set in a new mode of funding. That new mode of funding is called crowdfunding. Crowdfunding for smaller enterprises, as different from the medium and large-scale enterprise. Because mining is expensive. Mining is expensive. Prospecting for mining, for prospecting and or exploration, every aspect of mining requires huge capital. And those huge capital do not come cheap. A major challenge of miners and the people in the industry is going to collect bank loans for mining business. That is totally wrong. That is bad, bad, bad. Because you must short-term funds with long-term projects. There is a mismatch. And once there is a mismatch, the interest that you have collected from the banks will accumulate so much more that it will be more than the initial loan you collected. At the end of the day, you'll be bankrupt, your mining site, a mining license, and everything related to it will be taken away from you. So, of course, there will be no success. The point clearly is mining requires so much money, infrastructure, and funding, and that does not come from the banks. The banks will lure you and say, come, don't worry, we'll give you all of the things we'll give to you. Sorry, that whole thing will certainly not come to the place you want it to be. So who are the participants in mining, in exchanges? You have the commodity exchange operators, you have the futures, commissions, merchants, all brokers, introducing brokers and all of this. These are all participants in the commodities market, and they all have roles that they play in order to have what we call a fantastic market, what we call a regulated market, and what we call a market that is desired for mining participants. So the regulation of commodities are into futures, options, and contracts. Some of these terms are technical. So I try as much as possible to bring it down so that everybody will understand. So we're speaking about the regulation of commodities, registration of commodities and futures and options contracts. These are means by which funds are raised and funds are distributed. Warehouses for even the commodities we are talking about, the solid minerals we are talking about. There must be storage. All of these are important in the valuation of those commodities themselves. The SEC has several rules that empowers us to be able to do that. And in this, we will start speaking to the standards that these warehouses should have and the standards that these commodities. Now, with respect to this, we're talking about mineral commodities that we have. So very recently, the SEC, in collaboration with the SON and all other parties involved, validated the ISO standards on gold. It never existed. Even though it existed internationally, it didn't exist in Nigeria. So that process was a very, very important process. And of course, will give value to the work being done by the miners. So all of these are necessary and important as we go on. So these are the rules. We stay on the rules and the regulations for the establishment of a marketplace. So the exchanges are actually marketplaces, and there are rules and regulations that guide you in the establishment or setting up of those marketplaces. Without registration with the SEC, it is actually illegal for you to trade commodities on an exchange. What we have now, we have buying centers. Buying centers are, of course, mini marketplaces, which are important. And the buying centers take, of course, the responsibility of buying from artisanal miners and small-scale miners in order to have what we call an aggregation. And upon that aggregation, commodities and instruments are produced or generated out of that to use to be able to translate that into securities for raising of cash. These are the members of a commodity exchange in Nigeria. You have the trading clearing members, you have the institutional trading clearing members, and you have professional clearing members. And of course, you have the mere brokers. So in terms of commodities, in terms of gold, in terms of minerals, what you need to do is to have a broker that aggregates. The broker works between the warehouse operator and the miner in order to aggregate these commodities that will be tradable on an exchange. What is a commodity? Commodities are articles, products or material that is bought and sold. It can be classified as every kind of movable property except actionable claims, money and securities. It is the primary sector of an economy concerned with agriculture and extraction of raw materials such as metals, energy, crude oil, natural gas, etc., which serve as basic inputs for the secondary sector of the economy. Without commodity, the economy certainly cannot stand. Without a primary stand, there cannot be a secondary movement. So that is why minerals are so important. Commodities are so important. Nigeria is so blessed. We are so commodity rich, but unfortunately, we are so poor. We are so poor because we have not been able to build the value chain that will translate these commodities that we have into something that we require to energize our economy. The commodity is any good or service produced by human labor and offered as a product for general sale on the market. That is the position of Karl Marx. And going further, what do we have? Classes of commodities. We have the soft commodities, which are agricultural products such as livestock, wheat, coffee, sugar, soybean, etc. And the hard commodities, which are emphasis today. They are typically natural resources that must be mined or extracted. Gold, rubber, oil, etc. All of these are minerals that are. So our emphasis and our concentration today is about that, the solid minerals. We have various commodity markets in the world, and indeed, we have a good number of them listed here. You have the New York Mercantile Exchange, you have the London Metal Exchange, you have the Chicago Board of Trade, you have the New York Board of Trade, the Kansas Board of Trade, and indeed, coming to Nigeria, you have Afex Exchanges, Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, Gezawas Commodities and Market Exchange, Nigerian Commodities Exchange, Prime Commodities Exchange. All of these are exchanges where commodities such as gold, minerals, and all other mineable commodities can be traded on, and it is working. So types of memberships of the commodity exchange are other metals, gold, silver, agro-based, name it. All of these form the constituents of what can be traded on a commodity exchange. Of course, the objectives of the commodity market are hedging, with the objective of transferring risk related to the possession of physical assets through any adverse movements in price. Liquidity and price discovery to ensure base minimum volume in trading of a commodity through market information, demand and supply factors that facilitates a regular and authentic price mechanism. Maintaining buffer stock and better allocation of resources as it augments reduction in inventory requirement and thus the exposure to risk related with price fluctuation declines, and all of that. Price stabilization, along with balancing demand and supply, futures trading leads to predictable risk, assessing the domestic prices, which maintains stability, thus safeguarding against any short and adverse movement. Liquidity in contracts of the commodities traded also ensures maintaining the equilibrium in demand and supply. Flexibility, certainty, and transparency in purchasing commodities. Facilitate banking, financing, and predictability in price of commodities will lead to stability, which in turn will eliminate risk associated with running the business of trading commodities. This will make funding easier and less stringent for banks to commodity market players. It is so important that these objectives are the driving force in any commodities trading, and Nigeria is no exception. What are the functions of the commodity market? Like I said earlier, we must drill down to what's the responsibility or the essence of a commodity market. Because if I say come to a market, why should you come to a market? There must be a reason, and that reason must be clear to you. These reasons are what builds commodities market the world over. Nigerians and Nigerian miners are yet to fully benefit from these because one, they probably do not know. Two, probably the systems does not function properly. Three, because they actually have not seen it happen, and so they are not sure of it. So one of the reasons for the functions of a commodity market, which is necessary for the trading of minerals, such as gold and all other minerals that we've ever discovered in Nigeria, are one, price discovery. Because your ability to know what the price of a commodity is in a particular market will help you determine how much of that commodity you will sell at whatever price in the market you are. And that will help you in stabilizing whatever price you give out to your customers and indeed not shortchange you. The other reason or function of the market is price risk management, because if you know the price, if you have the information, you are able to manage the risk associated with price fluctuation and the volatility that will always occur in any commodity market. Diversification of portfolio risk. With the existence of a commodity market, you are able to diversify your portfolio risk because you are able to build a portfolio that takes care of every risk that will happen as a result of the fluctuations that will normally happen. Predictable pricing, because you are able to do technical analysis and fundamental analysis, you are also able to gauge where the prices will go. You know when the prices come down, and you know when the prices go up. Of course, you have import and export competitiveness. With the commodity market, you have been able to attain standards that are acceptable worldwide and globally, and you are also able to export your commodity because they meet the standards that is required wherever I go. Of course, the benefits for agriculture, for farmers and agriculturalists are also there, and credit accessibility. Because you are trading on a commodity exchange, you are more likely to get credit, to access credit at any point in time than somebody who does not do that. So what is indeed a commodity exchange? It provides a regulated platform where buyers and sellers of commodities and commodity-backed assets interact based on standard contracts. This slide is very, very important because it is the key. So all that I've been speaking to here this afternoon is about where do you trade those commodities. I do not understand the technical jargons of mining, exploration, exploitation, and all of that. No, my business is where do I sell these commodities them? When I finish mining, where do I sell them? Where do I get good price? Where will I have transparency? Where will I have price stability, price predictability? These are what are important to me. Do I have an off-taker after I have finished mining? Are they ready off-takers? The market, by reason of my level of agreement for immediate delivery of physical commodities or security, because at times what happens, and that is important to mention, only you trade immediately, you can actually create securities out of your commodities. So your commodities or your minerals do not have to be traded. You can, and of course, gives you the amount of leverage and cash that you need to continue your business. So securities, prices are settled in cash on spot. At current market price, a spot market can be an exchange or an OTC. Derivatives market is where you create instruments upon the commodities that we are talking about. So you have what we call the exchange traded fund, and you have what we call the gold ETFs. So the gold ETFs are instruments created on the back of a gold. You can actually have a silver ETF or a box ETF. Name it. You are able to create instruments. And when you create instruments, you bring about what we call liquidity. You bring about what we call access to cash. You bring about all of these are important for the mining industry. Of course, one of the critical aspects of the mining industry in trying to build cash is to create a fund. And that fund will be managed in order to fund mining activities that are happening within specific areas in the country and within specific regions, as the case may be. So we've talked about what the commodity exchange is. So we'll move forward to other things. Specifically, is the contribution of solid GDP. What is the contribution of solid GDP? We can find out that in Botswana, it is 38%. In Democratic Republic of Congo, it's about 25%. In South Africa, it's about 18%. In Guinea, it's 12%. In Ghana, it's 7%. But what do we see in Nigeria? As at the time of it is 0.5%, which means we have 99.95% as opportunity for every miner in building what we have as a contribution to national PIB. Also, this also has been addressed by Dr. Okengu, where he spoke about the various mining mineral occurrences in Nigeria. You can see how wide it is and the number of minerals that are spread all over Nigeria, which tells you that the emphasis we have been placing on other things for far too long is a misplaced emphasis. If we place our emphasis in minerals, in mining, then we'll be changing the game and the narration will also change. Of course, we spoke about, I heard, in the last lecture, we spoke about the troughs. So the strategic mineral locations in Nigeria, you have iron, gold, coal, barite, and all of these that are so significant for industrial revolution that we so dearly need in this country, but yet we are not able to. So what are the opportunities for mining, exports, and use in domestic industries for generation of foreign exchange and internal revenue, emergence of new industrial and downstream products, increased employment of Nigerians, particularly in the rural areas where the minerals are found? The multiplier benefits to the citizens are enormous. In fact, the solid mineral sector can very easily be the largest employment sector of the economy, since deposits abound virtually in every state of the Federation. Technology transfer and development of infrastructure, especially in rural areas, hospitals, rail, schools, and housing. These are very, very important, and of course, are continually becoming important. I remember in my childhood days, when I was in Jos, in Bukuru, the tin mining area of Jos, and you can see the beauty of that area and the things that you find there as a result of the tin mining operation in that part of the country. So what are the main drivers of commodity prices? As we speak, because when you mine, the next thing you look at is how much are you going to sell? So for a miner, beyond the technical aspect of mining, for you to sell, you need to understand what are the drivers of commodity prices. Because you do not want to sell your commodity at a price that is below your production. No. So you must also understand what are the drivers of this. So alongside general economic issues, there are several factors. For emerging markets, the past couple of decades have been enormous rises in standards of developing economy. So changes in these conditions can have large effects on commodity prices. Example is China is one of the biggest drivers of crude oil, copper, and iron ore prices because of their use for such commodities. But by the time we also put these things to use, then of course we'll have the value for it. The value of the US dollar, which is a major issue and is also a big issue because it is the world's reserve currency, except now that China is also, the Chinese currency, the renminbi, is also becoming a major reserve currency. So people buying in other currencies may not be able to purchase as a commodity. Substitution. As commodity prices increase, so does the viability of alternatives, and the demand will vary between commodities and use cases. Weather is also a significant factor, as well as supply and demand shock, especially at this period of COVID and pandemic. There are various issues surrounding minerals, and it is important that there is an understanding of the vagaries of the economy, macroeconomic variables that determine our prices, and so we are able to manage such situations in order that we do not sell at a loss. Ways to trade commodities, which is the crux of this matter. When commodities are traded, the trader doesn't necessarily own them. This depends on the type of instrument that they are traded on. Common ways to trade commodities are: one, through physical delivery. After purchase, commodities can be delivered to their owners. But there are other cases where a buyer may hold the physical product, bullion, often for an extended period of time without taking delivery of it. Shares. This is an indirect way of trading commodities by owning shares in companies that mine or produce the asset. So as we speak today, to the best of my knowledge, there is no mining company listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That is really, really sad. Yes, you have some buying companies, but not mining companies. So it's important that the mining industry begins to think about creating conglomerates that can be listed on the floor of the exchange. That enables people buy into those companies and indirectly, become miners as a result of their investment in such companies. CFDs, contracts for difference, those are derivatives that allows traders to speculate on price movement between the time the trade is entered and exited. Commodity futures, contracts that promise to purchase a set of amount of a commodity at a time in the future. These are usually traded on the futures market before the purchase date. So this is a very critical instrument for the mining industry, because at every point in time, monies are passed over towards the production of the commodities we are talking about for delivery at a future date. So these are commodities forwards and futures. Options on futures, these allow you to speculate on those futures using less money, but require even more accuracy in your trading. Of course, I spoke about ETFs. Many ETFs grant exposure to commodities via commodity futures, options on such futures, or shares in company that mine or produce commodities. Same also for the purchase of physical bullion. So these are ways and means by which people can actually invest in commodities in Nigeria. So the other participants in this market are hedgers and speculators, people who try to take risk with a bid to making profit at the end of the day. The two types of markets you have are the spot market and the futures market. Spot market, delivery of goods takes place immediately, 2 to 3 days. Settlement of cash takes place on the spot. Spot markets are not speculative in nature. These are stock at spot prices. There is no question of price risk. Availability of infrastructure is not also a necessity. While the futures market talks about delivery of goods, is a sophisticated market, which is due at a later date. The settlement of cash is postponed to a future date because it is T+1, T+2, T+3, depending on the sophistication of the market. Then, of course, you have the futures market, which are speculative in nature. Deals are struck at forward prices. There is price risk due to fluctuation in future price. Then availability of infrastructure is a necessity. But at a nascent stage where we are today, what we should be emphasizing on is actually the spot market. Once we are able to create a viable spot market where trading can happen, and that is what the buying centers are actually expected to create, then we can now move up to the futures market, which is a sophisticated market for trading to actually happen and for people to actually benefit in the mining business and in mining trading. In all, an option is a derivative. Like I said, derivative contract, which gives the buyer, the owner or holder of the option, the right, but not the obligation to buy or sell. This is, technical, but basically it's telling you that you have a chance of actually buying or not buying at a particular point in time, depending on the options you have put available for yourself. So in all, commodity trading and buying, commodities selling and buying is simply a matter of what we normally do. There's no complication in it. All that requires is organization. All that requires is education. All that requires is specific rules and guidance for that to happen. For any commodity to have the benefits that is required or is desired in trading, that commodity must be traded on an exchange. And the benefits of trading a commodity on an exchange are simply one, price discovery, transparency, standards, and of course, the opportunity for import and export. All of these are very much required if we want a virile commodities market. I hope I've been able to give at least some idea regarding what you need to do or how the commodity market works. And we invite and encourage everyone that is listening this evening to be part of this, because this is actually the future of the commodities market. Because the more we ruralize commodities market, the more rural it will get. The more we make it, better, sophisticated, the better it will be, and we'll move to the next stage in our development. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Timi, for that wonderful presentation. Can you help us just end your slide, your screen sharing? Okay. Now, you've been able to take us through mineral commodity trading, basically, but we're very concerned about mineral trading in this sector. And we have a lot of challenges when it comes to mineral trading in Nigeria, solid mineral trading in Nigeria. And you stress the fact that it's unfortunate that there's no registered mining company that is on the Nigerian Stock Exchange platform. That is very sad. However, if you go to the mines, you will see a lot of foreigners who comes to buy minerals at exorbitant prices. And that is, for me, it's a huge loss to the country. It's a huge loss to the state. And I think these are issues we need to start discussing. And that is, for us, the essence of this presentation. Also, we have a lot of women out there who are in the mines and they don't even have access to this market. And one major responsibility of women in mining is to see how we could link these women to the national and international market. So we'll be leaving the floor open for people, Engineer Janet, on mineral trading in Nigeria. Engineer Janet. Can I mute your mic, man?
I hope you are hearing me. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And was moving all through this sector. And like I told you, I said, I'm not interested in mining. I'm interested in trading. Because I've seen my friends, you understand, from other clients. How they trade. Uncle
yes,
ma'am.
I'm listening.
My own analogy is that when you look at the farmer that grows the yam,
Go ahead, ma'am.
and then the businessman that takes the yam to Houston, that takes it to any other country,
yes,
who makes more money? Even this vegetable, bitter leaf, or all these leaves, that is common to South. You get to African stores now in America, you see it and you see $5. You see $10, $20. I say, shaggy, you understand? The traders are the one making the money.
That's it.
So my question is, because I know you mentioned the issue of a broker. Does it require any professional qualification or anything to emerge as a broker? Where you understand, you're able to link, you understand, procure from the miner, you understand, and take to the market. That is one. I want to ask all my questions so that I don't come back because I'm sure I'm mindful of time. The second question is the issue of listing of companies. To me, I think it's just my contribution there. Why you don't have Nigerian companies being listed is that Nigerians need to be, they need to let go the mentality of selfishness and ownership. You understand? When you cling, there's a need for fusion, for companies to come together. The way business change in the Western world today, look at Schlumberger, for instance. The people that started Schlumberger are not even the real owners any longer. And you keep on looking at how divestment of things happen. But here in Nigeria, you know, we hold on to that thing, even when we are not making anything out of it. You understand? So I believe that that could be the problem. So it would be nice if you educate us more to know why no Nigerian company is listed. Even the so-called small-scale miners can come together, you understand, and fuse. People doing similar things, or even the 7 strategic minerals can come together, you understand, and build up their base to be one and listed for people to get interested. And finally, my last question is, what are the real methods of trading? If I, as a lay person, want to trade in gold, I have a group which we call Ruby's Women in Mining, Ruby's Cooperative Women in Mining. We are interested in trading in gold. How do we go about it? Thank you.
Yes.
The speaker there.
Let me respond so that we can take other questions first.
Okay.
So first and foremost, for a broker in a commodities exchange, you need to be a member of the exchange. That is for you to be a broker, to be a member of the exchange. As different from a securities broker, a commodities broker does not necessarily, from all intents and purposes, need to have a qualification if you are going to be trading on physical cash. But if you are going to be trading on securities, that is the derivatives of the commodities, then you need to be a qualified broker. A qualified broker is that broker who is registered by the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. So that will make you a qualified broker to be able to trade the securities or the derivatives that emanate from the commodity. If you are just going to be an OTC physical cash broker that trades your commodity just across to the next buyer, then you do not need any direct qualification. So we have categorization of brokers in our rules, and I will share that with you, that will, so everyone can fit himself into that place that you qualify to be. But more importantly, to be an ordinary broker or a trade broker for a particular commodity needs the expertise of that person. Because if I am not a miner, how will I know the quality of a gold or silver or whatever commodity as the case may be? But that is different when it comes to the point of being, a derivatives trader. Then for the point you made concerning companies not listed is very apt, because everybody wants to be a big man, managing director, chief executive, importer and exporter, local and international. And of course, you don't own anything. So it says, and we know also that divided we fall, and united we stand. So if people come together and put their resources together, put their knowledge together, put everything that they have together to set up a company which meets the minimum requirement for listing. And of course, for exploratory companies, they have a lower standard because of the threshold. So if that happens, then we will find companies listed. And there is nothing better than understanding that the company that you have invested in has a commodity, has an asset behind it, rather than investing in companies that do not have anything. So the mining companies are actually a great source for listing, if only the people understand exactly what to do and how to go about it. So for me, this is only a wake-up call for everybody, a clarion call for everybody that is here today, that you have an opportunity to make up companies that you forever be happy about. Then,
thank you very much, Mr. Timi. Yeah. Just in a very simple terms.
Yes.
We have a lot of artisanal miners out there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How can they link up to the international market? Chinese stock, the Chinese Metal Exchange, the London Exchange, and
right.
Those are platforms.
So the way they can link up, just to answer very simply, is first and foremost, like Honorable Adeyemi I just mentioned, you have a group of people. This group of people will do what we call aggregation, because you cannot sell 1 carat of gold on an exchange. No, they will do aggregation. There must be a collecting pot. That collecting pot is the one that takes it now to the exchange. Because for the exchange, you have people who are asking, I want to buy. And remember, for minerals, it's a very, very difficult and crucial, sensitive area where the people that want to buy outside want to be sure tax that the money is not blood diamond or blood gold or blood whatever. So all of these criteria are part of the things you need to fulfill in being able to bring these commodities to the exchange. And that is why we have the exchange. So the exchange is the go-between, is the platform where this trade happens. So a broker from London, from the London bullion market, or from China, or from whatever, knowing fully well that on this exchange, this can be traded. Certainly, of course, like we know, let me just also let you know, the FX Commodities Exchange in Nigeria and its Abuja here is also linked, has a relationship with the Dubai Gold Exchange. So if you have gold to sell and you link up with FX, that particular gold can be sold over at Dubai through the exchange at a competitive price, an acceptable price, a transparent price that you also know as a broker or as a miner that whoever is selling that commodity is not cheating you. So that is clearly the possibility. So in simple terms, what we need to do, and we'll take this discussion forward, is to put people together, create an aggregation forum, and register brokers with the exchange so that the exchange, being the interloper, will be able to bring buyers and sellers together, which is their function, in order to have a great market and profitable business.
Yeah, I think this justifies the means for us to have mineral buying centers across the country, so that mineral buying centers link up with the brokers at the stock exchange market. I think as I'm sitting here, that's what I'm just thinking. Let's hear from Professor Ako. Prof.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed the lecture.
Thank you, sir.
I have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Between dollar, naira, raw materials, and finished products. I think the greatest problem we still have in Africa and in Nigeria is that we are greedy only to sell raw materials.
Sure.
Whereas it will benefit this nation better if we have finished products.
Absolutely.
A typical example, take petroleum, for instance. We sell crude oil. It's refined for us somewhere else. It's sold to us at much higher prices than we produced. So why can't we have finished products from our minerals that we can also use internally and acquire regulated standard prices that China will sell its own, that America will sell its own, that other countries sell their own, rather than rush to the market with raw materials. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. just to make a statement, what you said is practically very, very correct. A major challenge with us in this country is about building the value chain. What is the value chain? And I call it, there is a blockchain of the value chain. If we review the value chain for gold and ask ourselves, from where do we sell it? Do we sell it out of just mining or the raw materials itself, or do we sell it after refining the raw materials into something that is more valuable? That is the question. And the more valuable thing that we can sell, or commodity we can sell, is the one that we have refined, that we have finished. That gives it more value. And that is why today we talk about cocoa. We produce cocoa, but the cocoa is not produced, the cocoa is not refined yet, and value is not added to it. What happens to it? We move it to Switzerland to do chocolate, and then bring back that chocolate to sell to us at 20 times the price of what we have sold the cocoa for. So who is fooling who and who is actually losing? So it's important, as Prof has said, that we must review the value chain. But as I say that, I can say that one of the low-hanging fruits for miners is what you spoke about, the buying centers. Artisans must come together. They must come together. We must look for a way to fund it, because the major challenge that you have, the banking system too does not understand, because the banking system does not understand who has that bag of money to buy from the artisanal farmers, the artisanal miners. The artisanal miner cannot wait for 1 month for him to come and collect the money after you have sold. No, he's hungry. His child needs to go to school. He has to do a lot of things. He has to deal with family problems. So it requires a fund that will be able to buy from the artisanal farmers, miners, and put together, aggregate for onward sales on the exchange. So these are very fundamental issues that we need to deal with in the finance spectrum of mining. If we do not deal with it, certainly, no matter how much commodity or minerals that you mine, you are not able to sell them for prices that will benefit the artisanal farmer. And all we be saying is that how do we give value to the artisanal farmers? And more importantly, how do we give value to women artisanal miners? It is very, very crucial. And that is why I support Honorable Adeyemi very well in this project. And I believe that if we are able to do that, then we are going to be able to improve families. We are going to be able to improve homes, and we are going to improve Nigeria as a country.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Timmy, for that wonderful response. Mr. Patrick, just very quickly, so that we can have you. Mr. Patrick.
Thank you so very much, Timmy. My network has been really playing up, but I said I won't miss you for anything. I remember. Hello?
Yes, you went up there. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Patrick, we can't hear you loud and clear. I don't know. Let me just, yeah, Mr. Patrick, just hold on. Okay, so I'll just read, somebody says in Taliat from the chat box, he said, I think the artisanal small-scale miners need to reach the stage of LEM. We need to formalize the system first. So everything we're talking about is about formalization, how we could make and let it start working as it ought to be. Mrs. Lami Salau says systematic formalization of ASM is key to the mineral value. If really we want the strong platform for stock mining, all very apt contributions. And basically what we need to do in the Nigerian solid mineral sector is a huge lot of work, and it requires formalization. Professor have said, from the way he spoke, Professor Akoi is literally kicking against selling of raw products. So we need to start thinking inwards and seeing how we could start adding value to whatsoever we mine in Nigeria, which is mineral value addition and beneficiation. I think that is the way to go. However, the need for us to also sell what we have, it's also important for us so that we can also compete in the global market meaningfully. If you go out there, the best goals we have out there in the world is coming from Nigeria. One village, one remote village, either in Osun State or in Taraba State or in Jos. You see, our things out there, our minerals out there are standing out. But why is it that we can't think inwards to add value to these minerals? Is it political will? Is it lack of or technology to even add values to these things? I think these are burning issues that we need to keep thinking and keep engaging the government on how they could do it and doing it the right way. I don't know if Mr. Patrick is still there, but if he's no longer there, Mr. Patrick, can you try again? Okay, I think we're done. This is 10 minutes to 6 p.m. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Timmy. Thank you, Dr. Emeka, for these two wonderful presentations. I've learned a lot. It's unfortunate that Nigeria is not listed on the stock exchange market. It's unfortunate. Engineer Janet wants to just end this. Do you want to say the closing remarks so that we just allow investment?
Let me use this opportunity to thank everyone that has participated on this webinar, and since we started some 6 months or so ago, and we hope to continue. We keep on looking and searching for best hands, people who are authorities in their field, you understand, and bring them in to be educated. And honestly, our real goal and focus is to actually corner the younger generation coming into the system to see how we can get them quickly. And that led us to what we started. We started what we called G4M, which is still part of women in mining, because if you talk of equality, or you want equity, or you want equality in the sector, if you don't develop the capacity of those people, you can't get there. So we decided to catch them young. And we have the project we call Girls for Mining as a result of the consequences of the gender justice study we did in three states, Taraba, Osun, and what's the third states now? Taraba, Osun, and Plateau State. So we are very, very grateful to you, sir, Dr. Timi Agama and Dr. Emeka Okongwu. And we hope to continue to come up with very interesting topical things, you know, for us to discuss, and sometimes even call on you to mentor, to help in building the capacity of the young ones, because I believe that everyone above 60 in this country have that fiduciary responsibility to look after the younger ones, because some of them, their minds are derailed. It's quick wins. They think life is only about politics, where they just want appointments at all costs, irrespective of anything. We can start arresting those minds by building them up, by educating them. We all get educated. Tonight, I'm so educated, and I'm sure I will see contact Dr. Timi after the lectures. So once again, we want to say Merry Christmas to you all in advance. Happy New Year in advance as you travel to your various destinations or hang around Abuja or wherever you are on the face of the world, because today we have very diverse representation from Mali, from Ivory Coast, Madagascar. We pray that the Lord Almighty be with us all and guide us through the year. Stay safe because of the pandemic. COVID is real, but the Lord will continue to keep us safe. Once again, from Women in Mining, we want to say thank you. And to our anchor, Mr. Mojo, we just want to say thank you. And the director of WIMSI, Doris, we just want to say thank you to the entire team. Once again, we say thank you and Happy New Year in advance.
Thank you very much, ma. God bless you.
Yeah, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of Women in Mining Training Institute series for the year 2021. And we hope to meet you same time, same period, same station next January. Do enjoy, enjoy the festive period, like Madam have said, stay away from trouble, stay away from journeys that are not relevant, and enjoy the festive season. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Professor
Thank
Arako,
you.
bye. We appreciate you.